All right, welcome into the second episode of Yard Prep prior to the Dolphins' second regular season game after losing the opener in New England. They're at home today against the Buffalo Bills, who came into the season as the favorite to win the AFC East. So the Dolphins come in at 0-1. Buffalo comes in at 1-0. Of course, Josh Allen has given the Dolphins a lot of problems, particularly with his legs, more so than with his arm. Over the past couple of years, the Dolphins will start Ryan Fitzpatrick again today. It does look like they're relatively healthy. We'll go over some of the injuries and some of the ins and outs here. I've got Alfredo Arteaga. I've got Louis Sung. Of course, catch all of our Dolphins, Heat, Hurricanes, and other content here on 5reasonsports.com. And also, we're going to try to get a post-game show going today, which is a little bit different than what we did last week, where Louis and I handled it ourselves. All right, let's get right to it, Alfredo. Some of the doings of the week, I know a lot of people have been paying attention to what's been going on with the Canes, the Heat, the Marlins, and so I feel like the Dolphins have gone to the back burner a little bit after their loss. But what happened this week?
Well, what happened this week is that everybody dug into what they actually did on the field on Sunday, and they determined that the Dolphins had the lowest percentage of motion plays in the NFL. And at the worst five in the NFL, as far as calling plays in motion, all lost. So what was the scuttlebutt this week was the play calling on offense. Was it bad? I dug into it a little bit. It was vanilla. It wasn't bad. Like, there were real NFL concepts there. The execution was off. New England was just better on defense. But yes, vanilla, absolutely. And I think that they're going to have to start digging into the guys that they have inactive last week, like Malcolm Perry, Lynn Bowden down the road, but Malcolm Perry right away to try to boost or goose this offense in the short term.
Louis, is that a concern at all? I mean, they brought in an offensive coordinator. I don't like to make age a big issue here, but Chan's been around a long, long time. I mean, the last time was with the Dolphins was 20 years ago. They did make it to the playoffs. They did win a playoff game with him, but he's always been kind of a ground and pound guy for the most part. I was a little bit surprised about the way he used his backs last week. No Matt Breida at all, really. I mean, just maybe the one series that he was featured. Otherwise, it was kind of all over the place with the backs. I mean, what did you see from Gailey last week, and I mean, what would you like to see?
Well, I wasn't surprised to see what the Dolphins did with the running back, simply because, again, even though Chan Gailey is the offensive coordinator and he's well acquainted with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and we figured that, he'll do a lot of the stuff they did with the Jets. I honestly wasn't surprised to see it, just because, again, this is going to be Brian Flores' team when all is said and done. And where does he come from? His pedigree is New England. New England always had the stable of running backs. It was never just the one guy. It was a bunch of guys. So, no, I wasn't surprised about the running backs. What I would like to see today is I would like to see a lot of Mike Gesicki. I would like to see a lot of attacking the middle of the field, because we've already heard the story that the linebackers for the Buffalo Bills, their two starters, Tremaine Edmonds, and I can't even remember the other guy's name, but they're both out. Milano, there you go. So they're both out today. So that means that they're severely weakened in the linebacking core. So if anything, now is the time to finally get in there and start attacking the seam, get right in the middle of the group, basically do what New England does to every other team every single week for the last almost 2 decades. That would be nice. I would like to see that. So if they can accomplish that, just kind of throw some slants in there, get in the middle of the field. And yes, if somebody takes a hit, somebody takes a hit. It happens. It's football. But you know what? It's time for the Dolphins to start testing that part of the field. I'm really getting tired of seeing these little flat routes. You just throw it to the sideline here, and then you just kind of dump it right there just to keep it away. Start attacking. Start doing more of the aggressive play style that we want to see from these Dolphins. Alfredo said it was vanilla. First of all, vanilla is delicious, but that's not neither here nor there. But vanilla is the sense that it's boring to watch. Vanilla doesn't have to mean that it's bad. It just means that it's boring. New England has made
it was generally stuff that every other team in the NFL runs. It's
right.
What it was.
Right.
It was like if you were playing Madden and you just picked the basic playbook. That's what they ran
Right.
last Sunday.
Oh yeah, listen, when I play Madden, I always have like this one play. It's like, okay, I need this, so I'm going to pick this play, because this play I always succeed because I know exactly where I have to go with it every single time. But that's what New England has done. New England for years has made a career for Tom Brady and a career for pretty much whoever goes in there out of probably a very vanilla playbook when you really think about it. It's just go here, go there, be there when you're supposed to be there, boom, touchdown. That's pretty much been their MO for the past 2 decades. So if the Dolphins can just execute, vanilla doesn't mean it doesn't work, it just means that it's boring. But if you can make boring work, who cares as long as you win?
But how much of this has to do with the receiver position also? Because it seemed to me like the only guy who could get off the line and create any kind of separation whatsoever was Devontae Parker. And then, as is his, reputation, he didn't last the entire game, right? So, I mean, you had other guys, whether it was, and we got Jakari Givens joining us. We got other guys, whether it was, Jakeem Grant had a moment, but they didn't use him very much. Preston Williams, I thought, had difficulty getting separation. The rest of their
he had a lot of separation. It just wasn't from his defender. It was from the ground.
Well, that's the whole issue. Right, exactly. So I just think looking at the receiver position, we'll let Jakari jump in here in a second. We were talking a little bit about kind of the vanilla play calling in game 1 for the Dolphins. Would you expect them to open it up a little bit more? And how much of that has to do with the guys on the outside?
Are you asking Jakari or me?
Jakari.
Go ahead.
I just thought that the Patriots was not a good matchup because their secondary is so good. Those guys are able to go man coverage, and if you don't have receivers who can get open, it's kind of like a wash. So it wasn't good. But I do expect against the Bills today, I think they'll try to attack Levi Wallace on the outside today. We cannot go at Tre'Davious White because he's probably the top 3 corner in the league. So we should stay away. And then with Edmonds and I think, Matt Milano? Mulan is out.
Yeah.
They're out. So I would look for them to look for Gesicki more this game. And, go to Myles Gaskins out to the backfield, like one of his one-on-one matchups with some of the backup linebackers. But I think a thing that we kind of like forgot about was how bad Fitzpatrick's arm looked. So that was kind of like a thing. I think the vanilla play calling was because of that. Like, if your quarterback, with Fitzpatrick, he's so game to game. Like, some days his arm look live, and then the next game it doesn't. So I think that had a lot to do with the play calling as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. We haven't talked about Ryan much, but and the picks and whether or not the 3 picks, 2 of them probably weren't his fault. But the arm strength did not look like where it needs to be. And I know there's an age factor here, but there's also, it could have a dead arm coming out of training camp. It's a different kind of training camp than they've ever had before. Alfredo, would there be concern? I mean, I guess if there's concern, we might see the other guy ultimately, but which I know a lot of Dolphin fans would like anyway. But I know Louis shaking his head. But, I mean, is there concern about Ryan's arm strength?
No, not if he throws with anticipation. But what we saw against New England was a quarterback that was making bad decisions. And he made bad decisions throughout. It was from the very beginning to the end. All 3 interceptions that he made were bad decisions. I don't care that Preston Williams fell down. If you watch that play, there was 4 other guys.
Open at all.
I disagree with you. There was 4 other.
He was not open at all. He's agreeing with you.
Yeah, he wasn't open at all. As far as Preston Williams, he wasn't open. But if you watch that play, everybody else on the field literally was open, or at least as open as you can be in the NFL. The second interception was it was a brain dead play. He was just brain dead. He went to the wrong side of the field. They teach that in the first day you pick up a football and you play quarterback. They teach you how to read a defense, and when a guy drops in the under, they tell you exactly where to go with the football. He went 180 degrees against that. So I think it was the decision-making. But I think if the Dolphins are going to be successful today, they got to get back to what they built this offseason. If they did anything this offseason was to make sure that they didn't have Ryan Fitzpatrick lead the team in rushing. They went out and they got 2 backs. They got a bunch of offensive linemen. Solomon Kinley is a hell of a run blocker. You could even see it in that first game against New England. Get back to the running game, try to establish something, establish an offense, and then you could worry about getting the passing game going. But they got to get the ground game going. If not, they have no chance against Buffalo today.
Louis, let's get to that with you, and then we'll switch over to the defense in a second. How would you like to see him manage the backs today? And you're going against a team in Buffalo that's maybe not explosive, but obviously Miami's had some trouble handling them, over the past couple of years. What would you do with the run game today?
For me, it has to be the Matt Breida show. It has to be, because we've tried this power running football scheme against Buffalo for years and years and years. It's never worked. We've always tried to, we're going to pound it up the middle, but we don't have the physicality for that. We just don't. So if I'm the Dolphins, I'm taking advantage of the fact that their two top linebackers are down, and I'm just going to try to outrun these guys. Seriously. Use speed, use explosiveness. Now is when actually, honestly, ironically enough, I called them out on it for doing it last week, but this time I actually think now would be a good time to kind of use those little dump offs, just get them open in space, get them a shot to maneuver around the defense. Yeah. Don't try to slam it into the hole, knowing that Buffalo is more physical than we are. I don't have to think about this. I know for a fact that Buffalo is more physical than we are, because they've been that way for years, and they still are. So
their D line is, very good. Ed Oliver, Harrison Phillips. I think Trent Murphy's still there, if I'm not mistaken. So running the football at them may not be a good idea just because of the defensive line play. But one thing I do think we have to get the Dolphins credit for is the offensive line finally looks like a formidable offensive line. Like last week, it was kind of like, all right, like those guys have showed improvement, and that's what we want to see from year 1 to year 2 with Flores. I do like, Ethan was talking about the defense. Defensively, I do want to see the run defense get better. I did think that like last week was kind of it's going to be the same game plan this week, because they use Josh Allen just how Cam Newton was being used. They use a lot of quarterback run game. Quarterback run game is hard to stop. I think that's why you guys are kind of starting to see it in the NFL game, because if you watch college, any team that runs QB run game is always successful. So, like defensively, I would like to see the defensive line play better. I'd like to see Raekwon Davis today a little bit more. I'd like to see Christian Wilkins continue what he had last week going. They'll have a chance to catch some interceptions because Josh Allen is, he's not that accurate as a passer. He's very limited as a passer, and he gives you chances. So,
I think one thing that I would like to see the Dolphins do today, instead of since they're missing two linebackers, you would think, okay, just get physical with the backups. That's usually what you don't want to do. What you want to do is try to trick the backups, make them think. So I'd like to see some twin tight end sets and make them have to switch and actually call numbers on defense, have to actually play with your heads as far as the Buffalo Bills. So I would like to, if I were Chan Gailey today, I'd be calling a tricky game plan to make them think, make them try to adjust to different formations and different sets. So a lot of motion, a lot of twin sets, a lot of bunch formations, because that's how you take advantage of backups in the NFL. You make them think. You don't go at them physically.
So make the vanilla banana split.
Something. Throw a little sauce on it. Let's go to the defense again, though. Xavier Howard was on a pitch count last week, and we had a lot of people asking where was he in the second half, but he got up to his snaps. I guess this is going to be the strength of the team. We thought, or we think that the two corners, and obviously, drafting Noah in the first round, and what they have there with the three corners. What did you think of the overall secondary play last week? And can they? I'll start with you, Lewis. Can they get any kind of consistency if their best corner, I guess we still consider him the best corner, is not going to be playing his usual snaps?
Well, first of all, just to be clear, do we know for a fact that he's still on a pitch count this week?
We don't.
So,
but I didn't know that he was on one last. Did we know that he was on one last week?
No.
Right. I just had a bunch of texts coming into me. Where's X in the second half, and that's where he was. So I'm assuming he probably will. If he was in week 1, I mean, maybe they extended a little bit, but why would he not be in week 2? Right. I would think.
I can see the logic. So, I mean, again, this is why the Dolphins invested so much in their secondary, I guess. I was hoping that this would be the Sam Madison, Patrick Surtain reborn thing that I've been hoping for, and maybe somewhere down the season it will, assuming he ever gets back to full and they feel comfortable letting him do that. But to be perfectly honest, I was pretty impressed with Noah Igbenogany, all things considered. This is the thing with cornerbacks, is that strangely enough, the less you hear about them, the better they're actually doing. That's like the one. This is like the one position in the NFL where the less you hear about them, the better they're doing. Because every time you hear about a corner, it's either because they made a spectacular Brent Grimes one-handed leaping over Megatron interception, or they got burned. It's like there's no in between about it. So the fact that we didn't hear Igbenogany's name a lot actually means that he was doing a pretty good job. So I'm hopeful. There was a lot of good stuff about him from training camp. So I think consistency in the secondary will be fine as long as they can continue that development. And who knows, maybe somewhere down the line we'll actually feel comfortable letting Howard go if Igbenogany actually continues to develop. I don't want to go there yet because I still want to see what Howard can do with Byron Jones. I'm just that curious to see what happens. But I'm not really concerned about the secondary because if anything happens, then we can always just go to our new Nolan Carroll, so to speak, with Nick Needham. Just kind of be that, throw the guy in there and let him do whatever he's got to do.
Jakari, go ahead, Alfredo.
That's the case for the Dolphins. That's really the case for the Dolphins today. It's that after week one, because that's another thing. We had no preseason, so we can't analyze teams and think about what they might do or they might not do. So all we have is week one to go by, and after week one, no team ran 4 wide receivers more than the Buffalo Bills. They were in 4 wide receiver sets almost 60% of the time in week one against the Jets. That's the Dolphins' strength. They have 4 corners they can trust, and if you add Nick Needham to that. So that's the case. But as far as Josh Allen, I watched the All-22 against the Jets. It wasn't really the design runs that were beating the Jets. It was his improvisation. He would get back there, look off a receiver, and then just take off through a lane and get 15 yards. So there really wasn't much to glean from what the Bills were doing offensively, except that Josh Allen's a hell of a football player, and if he gets loose, he's going to beat you with his legs.
All right, wait, hold on. Before Jakari gets in, Mandy, could you please explain, because you put 2 different things up in the Chiron here.
No,
I was like about to type something up.
Is Devontae Parker active or not?
That was my bad because
He is active.
Adam Beasley had tweeted out that he wasn't active, and then he deleted it and said active. So that's my bad.
Yes. Okay. No, it's not your bad. It's Adam's bad, but we won't give Adam too
That
much
means
credit.
Beasley had 2 tweets ready and he tweeted the wrong one.
That's exactly right. We make sure we make sure to prep those. All right. So Devontae Parker is active. We've got Leandro Soto at the stadium today. He was going to try to join the stream, but I'm not sure if you guys will still be going by the time he gets on there. But Jakari, let's get to the Devontae news then. Let's switch gears here. I mean, that does change the equation a little bit because, at least you have your big play guy in there for as long as he can stay in there, which is always the question.
Yeah, with Parker playing, like with Devontae Parker, he can get separation. But the thing is, with Fitzpatrick, he gives Parker a lot of chances with his jump ball ability, one-on-one, because he's bigger than most cornerbacks. So that gives the Dolphins a chance downfield. I just want him to get healthy, though. It's kind of like it's kind of becoming a nag trying to depend on him because it's like, well, damn, he can give you 2 good games and then he hurt. But a hamstring injury, I think he went out with a hamstring injury last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hamstring injuries are very nagging, so it's like you can be healthy like at the time of game time, but as the game go on, anything can aggravate it. So with Parker being active today, that gives Miami a better chance to win the game, obviously. I would like to see them test Tre'Davious White, just throw it over there one time with Parker on him, see if Parker can get some separation on him, just test him a little bit. But I think it opens up the offense. But like I said, I do expect this to be like a Mike Gesicki game, the Matt Breida out the backfield game. Myles Gaskins to contribute to the out of the backfield against the linebackers and stuff like that. So I do see that, but I don't know if Parker will be that big of a factor today just because their best corner is going to be over on them. So,
Lewis, go for it.
I have a question for Jakari. Jakari, do you think when you're talking about the game plan right now, are you talking about that's what you would want the Dolphins to do, or do you think that's what they'll actually do? Because there's a distinction there.
So I would like them to do that as far as game planning.
Now, what do you think they'll do?
What I think they will do. So I think they will try to establish the run game. Like I know they're gonna try to come out and run the football. Like that's gonna be number one for them. I don't know who the back's gonna be. I kind of would like them to get more consistent on who their guys are. But like I mentioned last week, this kind of is a preseason test run right now, the first 4 games. So I expect a lot of rotations going in at each position. So you can't really tell who's going to be the guy. I want to see Jordan Howard more today because he is productive when he's getting the football. But I do think today the Dolphins are going to try to run the football right at the Buffalo Bills. Coming out, Chandler Cox, Burrito all lined up in the backfield, I formation, power run game, in my opinion.
All right.
So everything we said we didn't want them to do.
Probably.
But Alfredo, the only thing is you said Josh Allen. Josh Allen to me is he's not that great, but I mean he can beat you with his legs. But the Dolphins DBs will be tested a little bit more today than they were in week 1 with Diggs and Brown on the outside though. So I think we gotta take that into account to see.
All right, I got to wrap up on my end, so I'm just going to give my pick, and then I'll let you guys continue this and then close it. I like the Dolphins in week 1, and I feel silly about it, kind of seeing what some of the holes are. I'm picking Buffalo today. I think they're further along about knowing what it is that they're trying to accomplish. Most of their players have been together now for a couple of years. I just think that familiarity is going to matter in the first 4 weeks a lot without these preseason games. And the fact that we're all sitting here saying that we think the Dolphins should do this, but they're probably going to do that, but we don't know if they're going to be effective at that, kind of tells us there's just no identity at this stage. And I don't know. Fitzpatrick, he concerned me, Alfredo, with the decision-making last week, but the arm strength did not look the same to me as it looked at the end of last year. So I'm not saying it doesn't come back, but, he's a little late on one out pattern, and it's a pick the other way, and that's the difference in a game. I don't know. It's looking a little Jay Fiedler 2003 to me right now in terms of the arm strength.
We can't be mad at him. He wasn't the only old quarterback who looked bad. Brady,
that's true. The old quarterback's taking a little longer to round into shape, which I guess it's funny. We talked about that with the NBA and the bubble, that the older guys would take longer to get back into it. And I think maybe we're seeing that with quarterback. All right, I'm going to bolt. The rest of you guys can handle this from here. We may do a post-game show as well, so keep stay in tune for that. Of course, 5 on the Floor will be back tonight.
All right, so I guess we could close with this. We could close with picks since we're almost at 12, and the whole nation will be tuning into their pregame shows. So I'll go to you first.
We're better than them anyway.
Yeah,
we should run until game time. That's what we need to do. Like, give us something real to do.
I'll go to you first, Louis. Give me one thing from week 1 that you could take into this week that was positive, and then give me your pick and how does the game play out.
Well, for me, the obvious pick would have been the secondary, but I'm going to go with the offensive line just because even though their run blocking was not good, but the pass blocking was good. So I'll take that as a win, and I'll hope that they continue to build on that and maybe start to be able to open up some holes. I think we might actually need like a really strong anchor before we're really going to be able to do that. So Ted Karras, I'm already not convinced he's it. So hopefully the Dolphins will invest in a.
He a stopgap player anyway, so it doesn't.
Yeah. Hopefully the Dolphins get a big, beefy, strong center, kind of like the old Mike Pouncey days. Just kind of find somebody to really take care of that anchor spot, and then he and Solomon Kinley can open up huge, massive holes for Jordan Howard to run through next season. That's my hope. So hopefully they can just continue to develop in the offensive line, keep that pass blocking going, give Fitzpatrick time to. Maybe you know what? Actually, I take it back. Maybe we shouldn't build on the offensive line. Maybe that's how the Dolphins need to win. They need to make Ryan Fitzpatrick decide he needs to run for it. Maybe that will actually open things up a little bit better. As soon as he runs, everything starts to get better. So make him run. Well, okay, I take it back. They need to be worse today. So
go ahead. How can they win? And then give me your prediction for the game.
How can they win? Pretty much everything that we discussed already. They need to test the middle of the field. They need to use some of that speed, make it a little more creative. They don't have to remove their vanilla, but put some sauce on it. Just like throw them off balance every once in a while. Let Fitzpatrick take off and run. Like I would, if I were Chan Gailey and Brian Flores, I would sit old man Fitzpatrick down and say, listen, man, I know that you like to run, so why don't you do that a little bit more? You don't have to wait for them to get on your tail before you take off. They're not expecting it. They never expect it from you, which is true. They never expect Fitzpatrick to run, even time they run all the time. But so that's what I would do with the Dolphins. I'm going to use my quarterback more often, and I'm going to try to get him to get out in the field. Fitzpatrick has no qualms with diving out there and putting his body on the line. So that's how I think the Dolphins can win. Just throw them off balance. As for my prediction, it ain't pretty. I'm going to go 27-17 Bills, just because I think Josh Allen's going to run all over the Dolphins just like Cam Newton did. He always seems to.
All right, Jakari, what can you take from last week that was positive for this week? And then what happens today?
Well, in totality, the defense did play well enough to win. They only gave up 21 points. They only gave up 21 points. One turnover happened right in their territory, so it kind of gave the Patriots a short field. So how the defense played last week is a builder for me. Obviously, the run defense was not good, but overall, they did enough to win a game if the offense was producing points. So I'll take the defense for that. For today, in my opinion, I know people are going to be like, oh, no, but you have to make Josh Allen beat you throwing the football. So you have to contain rushing, make him sit back there in the pocket because he's wildly sporadic. He's inaccurate sometimes. He misses throws that's gimmies. Just because I don't know. He has mechanic issues, but make him beat you with his arm. And then I just think beating him with his arm. But the run game, for me, for running quarterback shouldn't be a problem for Miami either, because you have an athletic linebacker in Jerome Baker. So that's another thing that's kind of worrisome to me, because it's like, what are we using Baker as? Because anytime we play athletic quarterback, he should be the spy guy right away. Or, responsibility QB, if he's not looking to take off, drop back in your coverage zone. But I think the defense is something they can build on. As for my prediction,
be honest.
My mind is saying Miami, but my heart says Buffalo. But I think the Dolphins win a close one today. I'll go 20-17 Miami.
All right, and I could
off a late Josh Allen turnover.
That would work. And I'll finish up here, and I'll say this: everybody was making a big deal about, okay, did the Dolphins have a spy against Cam Newton last week? They didn't need one. They were running design run plays with the quarterback.
I was saying in reference for Baker today. For today, he has to be the QB spy.
That's what I was going to get at, and I completely agree with you. Last week was not the week where you have a spy to stop Cam Newton, because they were running design run plays. How Josh Allen beats you is by having the play break down, and he just takes off. So they need a spy today. They have the guy to do it in Jerome Baker. Maybe even a little bit of Kevon Frazier, because he did it some.
Brandon Jones as well.
Yeah, all those guys played some linebacker in training camp, and they're gonna be in full wide receiver sets, so we're gonna see some dime. This is the week to play speed on defense and negate Josh Allen's run game. I say the Dolphins pull it out, but they're gonna need, I think, a defensive touchdown or a special teams touchdown, and they win 21-19. Okay, so
wow.
Confidence is not high.
That's close. That's very close. But I think I agree with you on that. I think we need a turnover or something that sets the offense up at the 30+ yard line, and they looking to drive it in. Something that give us points. But I agree with you there. I think Miami pulls it out. I don't have faith in Josh Allen like that. So I don't think he's a good quarterback. But that's my opinion. But I think the Dolphins defense, if they can get a turnover or two off him, because he's susceptible to turnovers. He fumbles, he throws interceptions. So I think the Dolphins can win at 20-17 today for me.
Well, all right, guys, that's it. Be on the lookout on the 5 Reasons Sports Network's Twitter account. We'll put out the links for the post-game show. I don't know, Louis, are you going to be on there?
You better believe it. I'll have words,
Okay.
I'm sure. And
All right,
probably
he'll be
I'll
on there.
explain a couple bad tweets that I do during my live tweets or whatever.
Hopefully, he'll be talking about a Dolphin win. All right,
That would be nice.
Enjoy
That would
your
make everything a
Sunday.
lot easier.
Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy the game. Lewis, I won't see you, but Lewis will. Maybe Jakari. Lewis will see you after the game. But till then.
All right, you guys.
All right, guys.
Good luck.